this very lovely platform Demio, so you can see the slide, hopefully. Can't have any more problems this morning, guys. So yeah, I can see that. I hope that everyone can see it. So yeah, thank you so much for joining. We're super excited about this one. I think it's one of our best ones yet. No pressure, Michael. All about insight to action, all the things you care about, all the juicy topics, complaints, consumer standards, and the TSMs. So we're going for some big ones today. Next slide, please, Vic. Oh, I can flip them. I forgot that part. Sorry. Right. So for today's webinar, you've got me. I think we started off very strongly, haven't we? I think you all know who I am. I'm the account manager. I'm all of these things. And today I'm flying solo. So I've got rid of my co-workers and I'm doing it by myself, which is my favorite kind of webinar. And then I've asked Michael to join us. So Michael McGuigan, he's the customer voice manager at Gentoo. Gentoo are a newly joined Word Nerds customer. And as part of the initiation, we make you all do webinars. So this is Michael's turn. Here he is, and he's got some brilliant things to share with you. So yeah, going to hand over to him very soon. So who are we? Just in case there's some newbies on the call, I think we've got lots of kind of existing names, lots of very familiar, friendly faces. But just in case you're new to these webinars and it's your first one, we are a customer feedback tool, and we help you with the structuring and analysing of all of your customer feedback. We are social housing experts. We've worked in the social housing space for around 4 years now. We've got around 20 housing associations on the books. We also work across some other sectors, so financial services, retail, and travel and hospitality. And what that means is we can steal all of their kind of best practice in CX and pass it off as our own. And that's what we'll be doing kind of throughout the course of these webinars. So for today's agenda, we're going to set the scene. So that's going to be me just chatting you through kind of how we got to this webinar, why we decided to do it. And then I'm going to hand over to Michael, and he's going to take you through a lovely kind of journey of the last 12 months. So, you know, what he's done to get to this point, and then what he's looking at in the future. So the kind of the next chapter for Gentoo and where they're going. And we're going to leave loads of time for Q&As. I'm thinking that you'll all have lots of questions for him and for me as well. So we're going to leave 20 minutes at least at the end for questions. You can pop your questions in the chat. So yeah, we can, if you pop them all in the chat, and then we'll have a dedicated section at the end where we'll just pop them up on screen. If you want to come off mute, you can also do that. So yeah, feel free to get involved. We do try and make these as interactive as possible. We're also going to have a little poll at the start that'll pop up. So yeah, definitely engage with us and yeah, engage with some of the kind of tools that we've got. Now, in terms of setting the scene, so I'm going to start things off. I've just got a few bullet points to talk you through. So I'm going to start off with a kind of the current challenges, which I know that you're all very aware of. And then we're going to talk about why you want to turn that insight into action. And then we're going to introduce Gentoo. Oh, we've got a couple of people saying that there's no sound. Is that something that's happening for a few people? So great. So some people have sound. So that means just going to the bottom, you can check your settings and that should work for you. I'm glad that the sounds worked okay. Right. So perfect. So in terms of setting the scene, current challenges in social housing. So it's been a year now since the introduction of the social housing new regime. And there's a real reflection across the sector as to how it's kind of changed the way that you're conducting business and engaging with your customers. I think there's definitely a feeling that's become a bit more business as usual. We were at the Tenant, Resident and Engagement Conference last week and heard this directly from the regulator, that, you know, it's becoming a lot more ingrained in your everyday business kind of life. So at the start, I think it was really difficult to get to grips with the regulatory changes, consumer standards, the TSMs, regulatory returns, inspections, and the grading system. So it's been quite a steep learning curve. And I think this has been reflected in the numerous C3 and C4 gradings. But we've also seen that some providers have attained the highest levels of tenant satisfaction and consumer grades. And a lot of the gradings being awarded have actually been kind of C1s and C2s. But what's clear is it's very much a journey and there's a desperate need for that one version of the truth. TSMs are sitting around 70% satisfaction now across the industry overall, but there are lots of pressure pockets and they should be really viewed as sources of intelligence. So I think what's clear is the conditions have been set for improvements to be made, and now the next year and the year after that are all about seeing and tracking these trends and using insight to really make and measure improvements. And that's really where we start this. So in terms of, why do you want to join this webinar? What are you going to learn? It's all about turning your insight into action. We know that you know all the top issues in your data sets. It's things like repairs, communications, but it's about seeing, how have the sentiment around these issues changed over time? What are the trends? How is this crossed against your metadata? How can specific actions be made to drive positive and negative change in the business, and really setting you in the driving seat for making a positive change within your business. And that's where I'm going to hand over to Michael.
Good morning, everyone. So can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear and see you.
Great, right. First slide. So today I'm going to talk through our customer complaints journey here at Gentoo over the last 12 months, some of the service improvements and the approach that we've taken, how we've moved insight and learning into action from siloed working. And we're going to go through the skills programs and how we've grown out and developed our culture over the last 12 months to have a positive impact on colleagues and customers. So first of all, I want to tell you a little bit about Gentoo, for those of you who don't know. Our core purpose is to provide safe and decent homes for our customers here in Sunderland, Washington in the northeast. And for today and tomorrow, I'll touch on our values in a little while. Our values were created by our colleagues. We asked our colleagues probably about 18 months ago what they would like Gentoo's values to be. And they told us what they were, which I'll come on to. And our vision is to provide great homes, strong communities, and inspired people for Sunderland. At Gentoo, we've got 6 priorities. So we know our customer, we help our communities to thrive, we provide great homes, we're a great place to work, and I'll come on to great place to work a little bit later on. We're well governed, and we spend our money wisely. It's probably similar to the majority of social housing associations across the country. And here's our values. So we care about our people, we take ownership and accountability, we shape our future, we bring strong leadership, and we deliver. So we say what we're going to do and we deliver it. A bit about Gentoo. We've got 28,500 homes, 60,000 customers, about 1,100 colleagues. 75% of those live in the Sunderland area. We have a 22.3% overall operating margin, which is really good. Our stock condition data is up to date, 98% complete. We've spent over £1 million a week investing in our existing properties, which sounds a lot, but we've got an aging housing stock, so that money's been spent really wisely to develop and maintain the stock that we've got. Our overall customer satisfaction for TSMs, we finished the last financial year on 78% for overall satisfaction. And we have £177 million turnover with a £12.1 million surplus for the last financial year. So that's a bit about Gentoo, just to put it into context. And you'll see why in a little while. We support our customers. We handle 430,000 plus calls managed from customers in the last financial year. We supported customers with an additional £1.9 million in income. We've got a strong Money Matters team, and we're always there to support our customers with their financial needs. And you can see there we had £41.8 thousand crisis fund with 802 customers referred to it, so where we could offer additional support. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our journey. And it all began towards the end of 2023. I joined Gentoo in April of last year, and after I joined, we've done a lot of work which I'll go on to, but the work started at the end of 2023. So we had a complaints team that were compliant, but there was opportunities to improve on what we were doing with complaints. We had quite a reactive culture at Gentoo. And we created a customer committee in November 2023 to hold us to account for what we do every day. And we've got 6 members of our customer committee who meet every 8 weeks. And I present to customer committee on complaints, TSMs, engagement and insight. And I'm quite rightly challenged, which is great. And as part of that, we brought in the accountability within the complaints team. We call the complaints team customer voice team, and we have a structure of 5 stage 1 complaints handlers or advisors who are called customer voice partners. We have a customer complaint lead who manages our stage 2 complaints and our housing ombudsman cases, and we're introduced a new MP and exec complaints lead role, and that lady starts next week in that new role, which will be exciting for her to join us. So historically, there was lots of like silo learning and silo working. The customer voice team captured a lot of insight, but I suppose really didn't quite know what to do with it. So it sat there within the team. So there was an opportunity to learn, but we didn't maximise on that opportunity to learn on what our customers were telling us. But we've moved on leaps and bounds since the end of 2023. So a bit about our journey as we move into Q1 and Q2 for last year. We delivered new complaints handling training to all colleagues who are frontline within Gentoo. That equated to 7,000 hours of training over the last financial year. We introduced new complaints reporting and introduced Power BI. Previously to that, everything was managed via Excel spreadsheets, which isn't the best, and we needed to automate our MI. So as part of that, we brought in a new complaints tracker. So we tightened up on the management of the complaints process. And we had our social housing regulator in to do a deep dive with complaints as part of our regulatory inspection. I think that was in April, May time last year, where we invited customer committee and involved customers to meet the regulator. And we did that deep dive session. And then we left the room so the regulator could have a conversation with our customers in private, which was really, really good. We invited the housing ombudsman in at the start of last year for our customers to meet the ombudsman and to talk through any issues that they were having. So we were open and transparent, and that was a really useful exercise. And that started to change the culture and I suppose the view internally when it came to managing complaints within Gentoo. We became a lot more transparent. We weren't just the complaints team that were sitting on a floor somewhere in an office building. We were proactively reaching out to other colleagues across the business to share what our customers were telling us at that early point. As part of the customer voice team, we do a lot of engagement work as well, and we have an engagement lead as part of the team. And we do something called customer community voice meetings every quarter, where customers can come along, discuss what's happening within their community, and we can look at ways that we can support and help, and we'll have representatives from housing and repairs there. And those sessions are really, really good, really worthwhile. Customers gain a lot from it, as do we. But we're also conscious of the seldom heard and the voices and the people that we don't see regularly who contact Gentoo. So we adapted our approach and we launched some informal drop-in sessions in an evening where, rather than being in a Gentoo building, we went out to local community centres and set up shop, for want of a better expression, at different times for people to come and meet us. And they worked really, really well. They were observed by members of our involved customer group, and they provided feedback to customer committee on how those had gone. And as a result of that pilot, we've rolled those out across our patches, our areas. Last year was the first year of our annual complaints and service improvement plan. We've just signed off yesterday the plan for this new financial year. We delivered all the actions. We had about 15 actions, and it's still on the Gentoo website if anybody would like to take a look, where we've tracked all of the actions that we said we would do and delivered on those. And as part of that early stage of Q1, Q2 last year, we brought in some new roles. So we introduced a customer complaints lead role, and we structured the team slightly differently. So when a vacancy came up, we adapted and changed that role so that we had the right people in the right roles at the right time to deliver our new complaints journey. And as part of that, we introduced a customer insight role because we knew we had all of this insight, but it was kind of bottlenecked within the team. And we wanted to start to take that insight to action and triangulate what our customers were telling us from complaints, engagement, and from TSMs. And as a result of the customer insight role coming in, that allowed us to accelerate our Power BI dashboards for complaints and for TSMs. During that time, we introduced a new governance framework into the complaints team and a quality checking process, which we also had an external audit at the same time, which we passed with substantial assurance. So it's been quite a journey, Q1, Q2 last year, lots of change for people within the team, lots of new things to get used to, but we've kept the customer at the forefront of everything that we've been doing. You'll see there from the slide, Q3 and Q4, we took that one step further. So we went out to different business areas, repairs and maintenance, housing, and we've developed greater collaboration and stronger work and partnerships across Gentoo to improve the service offer and to not necessarily reduce the number of complaints that we've got. Our complaints have gone up, and I'll explain why in a little while. But it was important that we were transparent, and I suppose historically we've got service requests, stage 1 and then stage 2 as part of the complaints process. And with the 7,000 hours of training that we've delivered last year around customer excellence and complaints handling, it's helped ensure that any customer who wishes to make a complaint, that is captured and reported as such. So our complaints numbers have gone up, but that's not a bad thing. And that shows that we're recognising a complaint when we see it and we're acting upon it, which is good. We've rolled out self-serve complaints MI suite using Power BI to our repairs senior leadership team. So in real time now, they can dip in at any point during the day and understand complaints numbers, customer sentiment, and look at where they are within their business area to with their action plans and the work that they're doing. So it's at their fingertips, the MI now, to understand what our customers are saying, which was they've welcomed with open arms. It's been great that they've been able to take that MI and use it usefully and know what they're looking at. And that was the other thing I think over the early part of last year was that education piece around MI and what is it I need to look at and what do I do with that information when I've got it and how do I translate that into delivering improved performance. And we've embedded brilliant conversations as part of our culture change. So each colleague will have a quarterly brilliant conversation where we've got goals instead of objectives. And those brilliant conversations align right back to our strategy so that everybody within the organisation is all pulling in the same direction to deliver for our customers. We introduced the Great Place to Work survey as a pilot last February, just to get a pulse check to see how people are feeling within the organisation in preparation for the rollout of Great Place to Work. And I'm pleased to say that we completed the survey in November, just like everybody else, and we were successfully accredited as a Great Place to Work for the first time at Gentoo. So that was a huge step change as well, culturally for us as an organisation. And I'm just going to drop this in there that I did achieve 100% Great Place to Work, so I was really proud about that. Particularly for the team that I'm managing, because complaints, it's not an easy topic and it's not an easy subject sometimes to deal with. And the team have been on a real journey over the last year. But it's important that we've been with them every step of the way, and we're all in it together. As part of that new MI reporting, we've triangulated all of our customer sentiment and our data in order to be able to deliver improvements for our customers and our colleagues. We've had some processes that we've changed as well along the way that we've identified could be improved and streamlined purely through what our customers are telling us as well. So it's worked twofold, really.
Absolutely unbelievable, Michael. Thank you for that, and congratulations on the Great Place to Work. I think that's an amazing achievement. Would you mind switching your camera back on, just because I'm getting some
sorry, it's gone off.
people
Hang on.
see my face, they see it all the time, and yeah, it's not interesting to them. So we've had every technical difficulty that we could have had today.
We have, yeah. Hang on.
How do you make your slides so beautiful? It's such a visually appealing slide, isn't it?
There's a great comms team.
Is there? Oh, God, we need
Gentoo
that,
as well. I'm not going to take credit for the slide. Hang on. I can't find it. I can't get my camera to go back on.
It's right at the bottom. There's like a button. You probably knocked it when you were sharing. It's just like at the bottom. There's like a little. There you go.
Great.
So much better.
Right. Well, I don't know. Maybe. Right. So I've deliberately moved the number slides further down the presentation because one of the things that I noticed when I joined Gentoo a year ago, we were quite focused on the number, more so than what the customer was telling us. And for me, as we transition on our journey with complaints and engagement and insight, that the number's important, but what our customers are telling us is more important. And so, for example, this week I went into the repairs managers and senior leadership team repairs training, and I pulled up a numbers slide, but I didn't talk about the numbers in great detail. They were there as a visual, but I talked about a customer's experience from last week, where it wasn't a complaint, but it was their experience of engaging with Gentoo, and that resonated more than talking about a number. But you'll see there from the numbers we've got from Q3 from last year, that our service requests are stable, and that tells me that the training that we delivered last year has been embedded, so we're now fully identifying what is a complaint and what is a service request. Our stage 1 complaints have increased, which is a reflection of the reduction in the service requests. But interestingly, our stage 2 complaints have reduced, and they've reduced significantly. So about a year ago, maybe 3 to 4/5 of stage 1 complaints were resulting in a stage 2 complaint. We've invested heavily in the customer voice team, delivered advanced complaints training. We've delivered the care model, which I'll come on to, and some customer excellence training as well. And we're now having a richer conversation with that customer at stage 1, understanding what's gone wrong and taking the appropriate action in order to get it right. And that's seen a huge drop in the number of customers who have remained dissatisfied and asked to move to the next stage of the complaints process. But also that governance framework that we've introduced, where every stage 1 response letter is reviewed to make sure that we've done everything we possibly can to get it right, has also had an impact on the reduction of the stage 2 cases. So that's really good to see. We've had an increase in MP councillor inquiries. That's okay. I'm not concerned about that number. It's pretty stable. It's disappointing that if a customer has to reach out to the councillor MP because they don't feel like they're getting the resolution from Gentoo. And our new role that we're introducing next week will be focused on looking at ways that we can use that insight in order to improve the overall experience. Our housing ombudsman determinations have decreased over the last financial year substantially, because we're getting it right when it has hit stage 1, and even the service requests, the action and the work that's been undertaken to improve outcomes for service requests as well over the last year through the training and the embedding of the training and the awareness of what colleagues can do rather than feeling that they can't, has helped shift that. And this all links in with our cultural journey and great place to work. Compensation stable. In fact, it's gone up slightly. That's because we're now awarding compensation, I would say, more fairly than we did previously, because we understand more from what the customers tell us what's gone wrong. We're awarding compensation that's appropriate for the service failure, and we award compensation in conjunction with other parts of the business where that service failure has been identified. TSM for complaints, quickly move on to that one. We finished Q3 on 40. You'll see that's gone up. That's always a tricky one, the TSM for complaints, because anybody who manages TSMs will know it's like turning an oil tank around and to see that improvement. So we put a lot of things in place over the last year, but we know, and the regulators said so themselves, that they're looking at 3, 4, 5 years of TSM results to understand what that picture's telling us. So I suppose for me, it's not being reactive when it comes to the TSM score. It's It's maintaining the path that you're on and the journey that you're on, and having the confidence that the direction that you're heading in is the right one. We've got 38 stage 1 extensions agreed. That's okay. I don't have any concerns with that. That tells me that we're following the complaints handling code correctly, and we are agreeing those extensions in agreement with the customer. And we had none for stage 2s, which is great. Now I'm going to see if I can get to the next slide without knocking the camera off. There we go. And there you can see our TSM results for Q1, Q2, and Q3 for the last financial year. I'll just pause for a moment to let you digest that slide.
I'd love to know how this compares to some of your housing associations. Yeah, it's super interesting.
So in Gentoo world, I was split as 70-30. So what I mean by that is 70% of customers are contacted via telephone, and the other 30% digitally. And we use a third-party provider at the moment to serve our customers for our TSM results.
Is there a metric here that you're particularly proud of, Michael?
I think the complaints one, because complaints, purely because that's my vested interest. But but overall, the 80% overall satisfaction for the end of Q3. We had a big dip in Q1 in the last financial year, and I haven't got the slide in this pack, but quarter by quarter, you can see the trajectory's going in the right way. Those numbers are all gone back up, which is great to see. But that shows that the culture change and shift that we've developed, and the insight that we're now using to drive improvements across the business. And the colleagues are invested and they're committed. They're much more customer focused than we've ever been, and that's coming through in the TSM results. But like I said earlier on, it's like turning an oil tanker sometimes to move those results quickly.
I think the TP1 score is, I mean, that's extraordinary, isn't it? That's a huge jump. I think when we're talking about the overall score, it's generally sitting around the kind of 71% mark, and that feels like you've made really big gains there. So love to unpack that in more detail and see, you know, exactly what you've done there to change it. But it sounds like it's all about the culture and all of the initiatives you've been putting in place. So
culture is key to all of the work that we're doing. And it's you can see it, you can feel it. I walk into the repairs department now, and people are interested in what we're doing within customer voice. I didn't see that a year ago. So they're the complaints team. That's when it goes wrong. But no, so I've been changing that mindset across the business. Well, yeah, it might have gone wrong, and when it goes wrong, sometimes it goes horribly wrong. But it's an opportunity to learn. It's an opportunity to improve. It's an opportunity to work more collaboratively together to get it right and not make that same mistake again. And there's that appetite and willingness across the group, which is just phenomenal to see.
Amazing. We've had some great chats in the chat, so I'll save that for the Q&A, but some brilliant comments there.
And one of the key things, as well as the culture change, has been around governance, around complaints. So I've said we've introduced a quality assurance framework. As part of that, each stage 2 response letter is pulled together in a pack for that whole complaint from stage 1 to stage 2. That then goes to a senior leader, head of or director within that business function to review, to check that we've done everything we possibly can to get it right for that customer. And if we haven't, we'll make changes in order to get that right. And then the final sign off of our stage 2 response letter is from an exec director from that business area. And then we'll release the letter to the customer, because we want to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can, and to learn from when things have gone horribly wrong. And we've got our complaints Power BI. That's been a key shift in us over the last year, in order for us to be more proactive, and especially introducing real-time performance Power BI for business areas to self-serve. That's been a bit of a game changer. We've got our quarterly reporting into customer committee. I was there yesterday providing the end of year update for complaints, TSMs, and the work that we're doing with WordNerds. And I also report quarterly into the exec team with our complaints and TSMs. So we've got that golden thread going through all of our governance framework and our committees and board. We have our member responsible for complaints, Morven. So Morven regularly comes in and spends time with the team. She's been involved with the creation of our annual complaints service improvement plan and report for last year. And we've developed an internal SharePoint site or web page on our intranet that ties back in with the Housing Ombudsman Spotlight reports. So, for example, there was a really good Spotlight report on damp and mould. We've also done our own case studies on damp and mould within Gentoo, and we're looking at the findings from the Ombudsman Spotlight reports, the finding that we're having from our deep dives and our case studies, and we're taking the learning from that in order to improve as well. So we're joining everything up. We regularly have our complaint deep dive reviews. So we've just reviewed again our complaints letters, our acknowledgement letters, and our response letters to make sure that they're empathetic, there's no jargon, they're in plain English, and our customers have reviewed those and signed those up as well. So the governance part also is key to delivering on our customer insight and our complaints performance in TSMs. As part of that customer excellence training we delivered, those 7,000 hours, we introduced the CARE model, which is all about being clear, assured, respectful, and empathetic. I'll just let you digest that slide for a moment. You'll probably be sick of my voice by now.
No, it's absolute gold. I'm loving it. I could be here all afternoon. I don't know about the rest of you, but yeah, absolutely brilliant. I think I loved some of you were talking about the kind of the culture within the business as well, like the office, the way that you create that for the team who are, obviously doing a very challenging job.
So one of the things we've done internally where the team sit, so the customer voice team are independent to the rest of the business. So I report directly into an exec director. So that from our perspective, we're transparent, we're clear, we're not biased for working within a different business area. We're totally independent. And with the customer voice team sitting where they are, we've created a wellbeing area. So this might sound daft, we've introduced plants, we've got a sofa area, we've got a free tuck shop. I've tried to design the layout so it's professional because we're a professional team, but it's also a relaxed environment, and there's opportunities to have a breather and go and sit and relax for 5 minutes, because it can be quite a challenging role. And it's an opportunity for us to sit and chat and brainstorm ideas as well. And that's all contributed to our great place to work.
I think you mentioned the turnover's been really, really low as well. So that obviously contributes to like the team are feeling like they're all one big family, and the turnover's low, which allows you to do more with the team and develop them in a more kind of stringent way.
Yeah, we've got this bit of a mantra going at the minute. So every time something like wonderful happens or great happens, a member of the team will go #great place to work, and it works really well. We've got a good camaraderie. We've got a strong team. We've got a professional team. We brought in the new roles that were needed in order for us to deliver this stuff that we're delivering and to get to this point in the journey where we are now. As part of the customer voice team, we have an engagement lead, and that's part of that triangulation of all of that customer insight and customer sentiment that we've got. And we're working with TPAS as well at the moment. So in December, we reached out to TPAS and we've started the accreditation process and the self-assessment. We did that probably in a slightly unique way, where we invited customers to come in and colleagues for our first session, and we did a day's training on the self-assessment process and accreditation with TPAS. And then we've had conversation 2, which was Tuesday of this week. And as part of that accreditation process, we've reached out, and TPAS have delivered scrutiny training to our customer committee and involved customers last week, which was fantastic. And as part of that, we've got a robust scrutiny plan for this financial year. On the customer engagement maturity model, we've reflected, and we probably set it between progressive and mature. So we know we've got work to do, and TPAS will support us on our journey with that.
Yeah, I think it's really important. We've talked about this before. Like, it's not all been smooth sailing, has it? I think you've definitely had plenty of challenges along the way, and yeah, where the guys on the call are experiencing some challenges. So yeah, it'd be great to touch on some of those as well in the Q&A.
Bit more about learning recommendations. For us, it's been about moving that insight and taking action. Culture is key to be able to deliver an improved performance and deliver for customers. But you've got to have those foundations in place. You've got to have good, robust, trustworthy data. You've got to have your processes in place and the governance, and the right people in the right role and the right roles to start with. Skills and development's key. We've done a lot of that across Gentoo over the last 12 months. And the triangulation of the insight from the complaints, the TSMs, the engagement, and we're looking at the root cause, and we are taking action, and business areas are owning that. The engagement is key for us. The drop-ins have really moved that dial for us, and we're delivering engagement and drop-ins in an informal way. And very soon we will be having a mobile unit or bus or van that will be visiting communities around the Gentoo area, where we'll hopefully reach out to those seldom heard, and those customers. We're taking ourselves out to the customer, which is really exciting. And the complaints team will be on there. There'll be housing, there'll be repairs representatives. We'll be that one-stop shop. And like I've said, improvements in TSMs do take time, but we're seeing that come through, which is great. But it's all about empowering those colleagues, which takes you right back to that culture, because it's the colleagues that do the job that have the answer sometimes in order to fix the problem. So we as part of our culture shift, it's all about listen and act as well. There's no bad decision, there's no wrong decision. It's all about learning and moving forward. And yes, we've got a C1 rating, which was fantastic to achieve. That's because we've got all the governance and everything in place as well. But also C1's the minimum that you would expect. So we're already looking at making sure that from a regulatory perspective, everything that we do continues with that journey, and we're looking at ready for our next regulatory inspection, so that we can demonstrate to the regulator that we've listened, we've acted, and we're moving on, and we're developing things further and gone the extra mile. And that was it.
Do you know what? You're right on time as well. That was incredible.
Wow.
Almost like we planned it, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, massive thank you to Michael, because that was brilliant. I feel like I've learned so much, and thank you so much for that. Yeah, we've had some amazing questions as well. So you're not quite done yet. Yeah, you get a sip of your drink, because get ready for some questions. Nothing too tough, as I can see. So I think you'll be happy about these. We are going to pop all up while we're just waiting for the questions to come in. So I think we're all really interested. I think Michael touched on there that, they are C1, but Gentoo don't rest on the laurels. You have to keep showing that you're moving forward and what you're going to do next. It's all about improvements at whatever stage in the journey you are. Let me know, where do you think you are, on this journey? Where do you think you are? Are you feeling comfortable? Are you feeling confident? Luckily, no one said that they're happy and there's no need for further improvement, because that would be a bit awkward for us, wasn't it? I don't really know what on the webinar, but yeah, got some answers coming in there. And yeah, get your questions in the chat. If you're happy to come off mute, then come off mute and I'll give you a prompt, or I'll read the questions out. So we'll make a start. We've got kind of a good 20 minutes there to get through some of the questions. So I'll try and start at the top. So yeah, lots around the structure of the team, Michael, and how you operate as a business. So I'll kick off with this one. Do your customer voice team have to go to business teams for investigation data, or are systems open for them to access independently?
So we do have systems that the team can access as part of their investigation. But I encourage the complaints team to go and speak to colleagues around the business, because we can do that with being a northeast and a social landlord, that our colleagues are either in the next building over the road from this one, or we'll do a Teams chat with them. But I encourage them to check out what we've got on the systems, but also to talk to colleagues as well. And that's part of our culture shift. I think historically they would have just looked at systems to formulate a view, where it's important that we do both.
Yeah. Who deals with service requests, please? Is it the frontline teams or the complaints team?
Anybody who has that interaction with that customer, if they can own it, fix it, or service or resolve that service request there and then, there's an expectation that they will do that. However, the complaints team, we track and monitor every service request and will audit them to make sure that they are genuine service requests, and if there's any outstanding actions, that those outstanding actions are being fulfilled.
Okay, that answers the next question as well. How do you track and record service requests? So yeah, that makes sense. Next one. So are the scores that you popped up on the screen there, are they rolling average? That was the slide with the overall scores.
For TSMs?
Yeah.
No, that's not a rolling average. That is from our quarterly reporting. So that's so no. However, this financial year, we are looking at that, particularly around for overall satisfaction.
Okay, great.
And what so I did touch on that in the presentation where I've said quarter on quarter that score's gone up.
Yeah.
But no, there are quarterly scores, not rolling.
Because your 2024-25 scores haven't been published yet, have they? The report
No,
on the website.
They were presented to board and customer committee yesterday, so I couldn't share them today, unfortunately.
They're brand new, fresh, hot off the press.
Yeah.
So do you ask any additional questions in the survey around complaints and complaint handling? Do you go out there and try and find more information out?
Oh, yeah, well, yes. So we've got the question that's asked in relation to the TSMs for the complaint question, but throughout all of our TSMs, we're also looking for other factors. So if a customer during that survey response mentions damp and mold, then that's automatically flagged direct to the repairs team's mailbox for them to investigate it, because it might be that that damp and mold hasn't been reported previously. And we want to be proactive in order to reach out to that customer to say, like, you mentioned this in the survey, can we just check everything's okay? Or could we come out and have a look? Or it might be there's a case already on the system that, right, let's just double check that. So and there's another couple of other prompts that we've got in there that will send us alerts to take action.
It sounds like you're really good at triangulating the different sources, which I think has been a traditional paper. So yeah, really interesting. So one about compensation. The increase in compensation offered that you spoke about, have you increased compensation offered at stage 1, and do you have a specific compensation framework in place?
So I presented a revised compensation policy to customer committee yesterday, which was approved. Our compensation has increased at stage 1, but we've set some parameters. So we've got what we would call in our compensation matrix a maximum level that the customer voice team would be able to authorize, and anything that's deemed higher than, I don't know, £50, for example, anything that's deemed higher than that, a decision will be made with that management, the business area responsible or accountable for that failure, for that complaint, as well as the complaints manager, so that we're having that open dialogue and those conversations so that we are apportioning compensation correctly for that service failure. Hope that answers the question. It has gone up, however, compensation stabilized. But I think we did need to increase compensation from where we were probably a year ago.
Yeah. So one about word nerds now. Brilliant progress. Can you tell us more about the word nerds piece and the next challenges you're using to tackle using insights? So what are you looking for in the next kind of few months with the piece?
It's been exciting to work with word nerds. I have to say we've come to the end of our proof of concept phase, I suppose. And we've had that report emailed across this morning, so that's also hot off the press. So I haven't had time to digest that yet. But Pete and the team are coming in. I think it's the 17th of June. We've got a session booked in on the 17th of June where we're going to meet with our exec team, go through the report and look at our way forward and our next steps, because the automation and the information that I've glanced at the report this morning, it's very in-depth, very thorough, and that takes us to the next level. We've done everything in-house for the last 12 months. And a lot of that's required manual intervention. It's been quite time consuming. And we're excited to be doing this proof of concept with word nerds. It's a game changer.
Brilliant. Thanks for the shout out.
You're
I
welcome.
guess, has Pete slipped you a promise of a pint? It's the kind of thing he usually does. Yeah, perfect.
I know, but I'll take them up on the offer.
And if you're listening to this and thinking like this sounds like something that I want to be involved in, I'll be sharing some information about next steps and how you can contact us and look at doing a similar piece of work yourselves. Yeah, it's all very non-salesy, as you can probably tell, but we can explore that quite quickly, and I'll be sharing information after the call. Thanks.
And for us, the other bonus was you guys are based in Sunderland, so that was like we kept it in the northeast.
No, Pete's based in Sunderland. I'm very much the other side of the river. I'm Gateshead. Very different. I'd be really interested to hear what you look for as part of the quality assurance for complaints.
Oh, we've got about a 15 checkpoint checklist for quality assurance from complaints, and it ranges from everything from the letter, the acknowledgement letter, the end-to-end process for that complaint. So that first point of contact with that customer, so we're checking systems have been updated correctly. We're checking that the investigation's been carried out correctly. I'm more than happy to share from a best practice perspective what we look for in our quality framework. But we do everything from the first point of contact, from systems to letters to interactions with the customer to listen to calls, the whole piece. I'm happy to share that in a bit more detail if anybody would like to see what it is that we check.
Yeah, I've fallen down a bit of a rabbit hole on the Gentoo site. There's absolutely tons of information, frameworks. Yeah, it's really, I think it's the most in-depth one that I've seen. So definitely go and have an explore, and I'll make sure that Michael shares the resource if that's okay with you.
Yeah, and also with the quality assurance framework, it's all built into lockdown and built into SharePoint. So it's all automated, so there's no paperwork, nothing like that. And then when it gets to the outcome of the quality assurance, the colleague automatically receives an email to say it's been quality assured, and some positive, constructive feedback that goes alongside that. So from a governance perspective and from an audit perspective, we can demonstrate that we are doing that's something that's part of our process.
Brilliant. So can you explain the Insight Advisor role that you've got, and would you mind sharing the job description?
So the Insight Advisor role came about. It was created in June last year. We identified that and I've worked at other housing associations previously, and you would have your complaints team, and that was it. There's your complaints team. Customer Insight would be over here somewhere or in a different team somewhere. And engagement would also be somewhere else. And for us to be able to take all of that rich customer information and sentiment and what our customers are telling us, and to improve knowing our customer, for me, it was important that we had an insight role sat within the complaints team or the customer voice team, as it is. As I said at the start, they had lots of customer data and customer information, but didn't quite know what to do with it or have the time to do something with it, because complaints is quite a niche role. So the advisor role came about to start that journey of that and that triangulation, really, and to move us more towards a customer insight team that has a complaints arm attached to it than purely just being focused on the complaints team. But that also is part of that culture shift. So rather than complaints being a dirty word or nobody wanting to go anywhere near it, here we are a year later nearly, and colleagues around the business we've got so many colleagues and senior leaders knocking on our door wanting insight, wanting to know what customers telling us, whereas we didn't have that a year ago. So there's this huge appetite to know more. There's a danger that comes with that, so we've got to present that in the right way, rather than sending people off down a rabbit hole or panicking when they see what a customer's telling us. So we are presenting the information in the correct way, and I needed to have the right role and the right person in order to do that. So it's early days. That role's been in post, will be coming up to a year. That'll grow and develop over the next year. But we needed that role in place in order to start using the insight more effectively.
That makes sense. And that person reports into you, and then you report directly into the CEO, right?
Yeah. So the way the team structured at the minute, we've got a customer engagement lead, the customer insight advisor role, and the customer complaint lead all report directly into myself. The rest of the team report into the customer complaints lead, and I report directly into an exec director.
We've got so many questions. I'm not sure we're going to be able to get through them all. Oh, let me have a look. I've got a few more. I'm going to try and squeeze them in the next 6 minutes. So we've had a comment from Yorkshire Housing, really interesting. So it's not so much a question, but I think just a comment around the volume of complaints. So at Yorkshire Housing, they have 18,000 houses, and they get around 130 to stage 1 and around 40 to stage 2. So less stock, but a lot more complaints. Well done. I'll let you comment on that. I think
Sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I think that speaks to the service request distinction we talked about. It's really difficult, isn't it, to kind of get an overall comparative picture. What do you think?
Yeah, and that was one of the things that I needed to get right when I joined the organisation last April, because I just felt from a service request perspective, I needed to understand and have that reassurance and that governance check in place that what we had as a service request was a genuine service request, and what we had as a complaint was a genuine complaint, and that all complaints that were identified were being tracked as such.
Yeah.
I've had that reassurance now, which is great. I wouldn't be too concerned at 130 stage 1 complaints. For me, I'd be probably starting to dissect it and do a bit of root cause analysis around it to see if any of them were potential service requests. But I think that's a great opportunity. That wouldn't worry me.
Yeah, I'd love to see the bigger picture of the TSM scores against that and the satisfaction. But thanks, Sarah. Very, very nice to see someone, putting themselves forward and comparing. So, yeah. Next one. So this is a really good one from Becky. In surveys, we find that if a customer is unhappy with the outcome of the complaint, they report to be unhappy with the handling of their complaint, even though we feel like the service they've had is good. I think this is a really common one. So when surveying, do you ask any further questions to distinguish handling and outcome for the customer?
That's a very good question. So where we are now from a complaints team perspective, and from all of the governance that we've got in place, I know, and I have the assurance and reassurance that from a complaints handling perspective, we've got it right. We've tightened up so much over the last year. We're 100% compliant, and we're delivering a much more professional and quality service to customers. We know that on the back of service at TSMs, for example, sometimes it can be outstanding follow-on works with repairs, or things still need to be completed, which can have an impact on what our customers are telling us about the complaint score, for example, or we're still unhappy. And I get that. And I have conversations every time I'm in front of a customer committee about the complaints TSM score, which is moving, but it's not moving very quickly, which, as I said earlier, it's like trying to turn an oil tanker with TSMs. So yeah, I get that, and I feel that, but I think if you've got the right governance in place, and you've got you know what your team, how your team are performing, you've got that quality framework in place, and you've got the rest of that customer sentiment. It's back to that triangulation. So if I looked at the surveys in isolation, I could think, oh, hang on a minute, we're not doing something right when it comes to managing and handling complaints. But overall, bringing all of that insight together, I know we've got a really robust complaints process that works, that delivers. But I also know that customers are unhappy on the back of surveys, and that necessarily isn't the complaints process or the way their complaint's being handled. It's what that complaint was really about in the first place. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. I think this is something that was touched on at the conference we were at last week. The regulator said that going forward, there probably will be changes at some point. So not right now, probably in the next few years, there'll be some changes around the wording of the questions and how that breaks down. So yeah, really interesting. Look, we've got 2 more questions. Can we squeeze them in?
Yeah, go on.
Was your complaints handling training delivered by a third party or in-house?
Third party. But having said that, we co-created that complaints training. We co-created the customer excellence training for the rest of the frontline colleagues across the business, and the advanced complaints training we delivered to the complaints team. Rather than delivering it in one session, we did it over 3. So we kept the story and the journey alive. So after each session, the customer voice team, complaints team were given a little bit of homework to do. and it helped strengthen the performance of the team. But it also, we looked at insights and characters and behaviours within the team as well. So it wasn't specifically just about this is how you handle a complaint, this is empathy and all of that. It was a journey of self-discovery for those individuals as well. But we did it over a 3-month period.
Right. Okay, great. And then last one for now, we've had some amazing comments in the chat and some kind of conversations that I think we need to pick up and probably take offline and maybe we can answer it in a kind of separate place. But last one, how many customers currently make up the customer committee, and is it quite a diverse group?
Yeah, so the 6 customers that are on customer committee, one of those customer committee members is a Gentoo board member as well. They are a diverse group and they hold us to account. They've been in place now just over a year and 4 months. They do a really good job. They challenge respectfully and they hold us to account. And that's what's needed because we're here for the customer. And if they didn't challenge, I'd be disappointed because their views count, their views are important. And they've had lots of training over the last year to support them in it being able to scrutinise more in depth so we can maximise what they bring to the role and give them the confidence and the skills to help them. So it's great. They're really good.
What a nice note to end on. That was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. We can't thank you enough. That was brilliant. I'm sure that the people that have joined the call, there was around kind of 65 have been really kind of enlightened by what you've shared. So thank you so much. We will share the slides in the recording. I think we'll probably take some of the comments that we've had and go into them in a bit more detail. But yeah, it's been brilliant. Thank you so much for your time.
No
I hope you've
enjoyed
it.
Thank you.
For our next one. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks for your time, Michael.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.